This was obviously not the result we wanted, but I want to be clear that I hear people's concerns and frustrations.
There's a message that our voters would like to send to Mr. Trudeau, and that's one of change.
The Prime Minister is committed to leading us into the next election, and he has our support.
We begin with Liberal reaction to the by-election loss last night. I'm joined by Liberal Cabinet Minister Karina Gould, and for the sake of transparency, I do want to note at this point that my husband used to work for Minister Gould several years ago. Minister Gould, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Catherine.
This is a historic loss for your party in a riding that has been known as a long-time Liberal stronghold. How do you explain what happened here?
Well, look, I'll be honest with you. I mean, this is obviously a very disappointing result for us. But what I can say is that I think it's a wake-up call. It's definitely the voters of Toronto St. Paul's had a message for us as the government, that we need to do a better job of listening to what their priorities are. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Okay, so what does that look like? For instance, when the Prime Minister came out this morning, he said, we have much more work to do. I cannot count the number of issues that I've heard the Prime Minister say that about. What is going to change here as a result of this wake-up call?
Well, I mean, so it's only, a few hours because the results came in early this morning after getting the results. So I think, we have to do some internal reflection. We definitely have to make sure that all of our caucus members are going out and talking to their communities and most importantly, listening to what's on their mind and then having some serious conversations about that in caucus. I think what's clear about yesterday's result is that we have to do things differently. And that's what the voters of Toronto St. Paul's have asked for. It's a tight election. I should first of all congratulate Mr. Stewart on winning. He obviously fought a very hard campaign and, thank our candidate, Leslie Church, who was a fantastic candidate who worked very, very hard. But clearly, we need to do some reflecting and we need to do some listening and we need to demonstrate to, both folks in Toronto St. Paul's, but also right across the country, that we hear them and that we're listening to what their priorities are.
You talk about listening. The Deputy Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, said yesterday when asked about this by-election, the alternative to the Liberal vision is really cold, cruel, and small. When you talk about listening and doing things differently, is that the right way to keep talking about your opponent's vision when, in the case of Toronto St. Paul, a majority of voters preferred that or plurality compared to what the Liberals were offering?
Well, I think what it comes down to is making sure that we're not just listening, but we're also making sure that Canadians feel heard and that they see that in our actions as a government. I think about, what we've been able to accomplish over the last 3 terms, some really incredible things for Canadians. Obviously, I have a personal affinity for childcare, but if I think about dental care, if I think about the NAFTA negotiations, if I think about all the work that we've done to fight climate change and set Canada up for success, those are all things that we did because Canadians were asking for them. But I think where we are today, post-COVID, in a different kind of economy with inflation, things are expensive for Canadians. Is really trying to make sure that not only are we listening, which I think we have been doing, but we're demonstrating that we're hearing what's important to Canadians and we're responding to what their needs are. Housing is a good example. We are having real challenges with housing since Minister Fraser has come into that portfolio. He's really changed a lot of the work that we're doing in housing.
So Minister,
what Canadians were asking from us.
Well, I do want to jump in here, Minister, because of course the Liberals you unveiled your housing strategy months ago. You've been talking about housing certainly since last summer's cabinet retreat, and so in some ways this by-election was a response to that, saying that what you've done so far perhaps isn't enough. And so let's talk about the elephant in the room. Is the problem your leader? The Liberals have consistently been polling 15 to 20 points behind the Conservatives. Can Justin Trudeau really stay on as leader if numbers continue to look like that?
Well, look, I mean, he's been the Prime Minister who's led us to 3 governments. I continue to have full confidence in him as Prime Minister, and the things that we've been able to deliver for Canadians are as a result of of him being the Prime Minister. So I do think that he can stay on, and I think that he will. But what he said today, which I think is right, is that we were sent a message from Toronto St. Paul's, and so it's now up to us as the Liberal Party of Canada, as caucus, as cabinet, as the Prime Minister, to listen to that and to change how we're approaching things.
But you say we were sent a message. I mean, our colleagues who were in Toronto St. Paul's, they played tape after tape of people saying the message is, I can't vote for Justin Trudeau. What do you do with that message?
Well, so I think it's a reflection of the frustrations that people are feeling right now, which I think are legitimate and understandable. And it's something for us to reflect on to ensure that we are responding to what Canadians want and how we can deliver for them. The Prime Minister has been very clear that he's sticking around, that he's going to be running in the next election. And now we need to make sure that we are listening to Canadians over the summer, that when we regather as caucus members in September, we're thinking about what the plan and the strategy is over the next year to both govern effectively and to deliver for Canadians, and to demonstrate that we still have a very positive vision for this country and for the future of this country.
It's not just voters, Minister Gould. Members of your own caucus are speaking to, certainly myself and colleagues at the CBC. I'm sure reporters across Parliament Hill today saying things like this was a clear message that he has to go, that in order to safeguard his own legacy, it's clear he has to step down now. What can you do to bring caucus on side at this point?
Well, I'm not going to speak for caucus. Certainly we've always been a big tent party with people who have a diverse array of ideas. But what we do best in the Liberal Party is when we do get together as a caucus and we hash it out and we come out unified. And so, again, caucus members are going to be out there talking to their communities and their constituents over the summer, listening, gathering information, hearing what their priorities are. And when we come together, at the end of the summer before the fall session, that's going to be a great opportunity to hear what they're hearing across the country and to really move forward together.
Pollsters David Coletto and analyst Eric Grenier took a look at the Toronto St. Paul's results and said if this swing were to be replicated across Ontario, it could wipe out as many as 55 Liberal seats. What hope do you have of winning the next election when that's what the numbers look like?
Well, Catherine, I always have hope. I'm a very optimistic person, and I also, am not naive. I think that the Toronto St. Paul's by-election was an important wake-up call for us as Liberals. It was this is a riding that has been Liberal for a very long time. We certainly did not expect the results that we got yesterday. I will reiterate, it was close. I mean, it was about 500 votes different, but still, that's a loss is a loss, and we have to take that. And we have to take our lumps, and that means that we need to regroup and think about how we're going to move into the next 16 months ahead of the next federal election. You know as well as I do that a year is a lifetime in politics, but it's only going to make a difference if we make a difference in how we're approaching things. So, I can't give you all the answers right now because, we just got the results earlier today. But what I can tell you is that, as a Liberal member of Parliament in Ontario, I'm certainly taking these results to heart. I know we're going to be having lots of conversations with colleagues across the province about what went wrong, what we need to do better, and how we need to change that. And, that's certainly where my energy is going to be focused.
Okay. Minister Gould, thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine.